All right, welcome back. This is Kevin McCain with Idaho Art Class and Kevin McCain Studios. And today we're going to talk about the Reilly Method. So a lot of people are talking about Reilly on the, you can find on YouTube a lot of different people that talk about Loomis and Reilly and some other systems for creating portraits and drawing heads and stuff like that. So this is the Reilly head. Now I guess Reilly didn't, from what I understand, Reilly didn't write any of his stuff down. And so we basically have been given his stuff from students and things, and he's had some very, very famous students that took from him and took from students of Reilly's and so forth and so on. And so it can be a very powerful method. When you first see something like this, it looks a little ridiculous. But the thing is, the great thing about Reilly that you can get lost in kind of this weird looking portrait is that they break up the face so that they are marking different landmarks, like the musculature above the brow, how it wraps. And there's a little dip right here because it connects to the skull. There's a little natural dip, and part of the muscle that comes around the eye, and especially on the top of the brow. Yeah, this is the frontal part of the forehead. We have the ocular cavities are defined by this. The nose, the mouth, the chin, the cheekbones, the underside of the cheekbones, some plane changes, side of the head versus front of the head. There's all kinds of stuff and information that you get from Reilly. And so we're going to show you how to do the Reilly method. And again, it's basically rhythm lines. So does that mean do you always break this out when you draw people? Not necessarily. In the beginning of drawing people, to kind of help you level up as quickly as possible, I would encourage you to kind of use at least some of this. I'm going to show you my variation. Again, there's lots of people that have a variation on the Reilly technique. And it becomes somewhere they personalize it. Like, well, for me, I'm doing this. I'm still using Reilly, but I'm changing, the way I approach it. And so we're gonna show you the Reilly method, and it's basically the Loomis method is a simplification of Reilly's method. And so we'll start with the Loomis head, and then we'll build Reilly back into it. All right, we'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so we're gonna do a little drawing showing the Reilly method. And we're going to start with the Loomis method. So we always start with, and like I said, I believe that Loomis was younger than Reilly. I believe he ran into this system from somebody, and then he simplified it essentially. So we're going to start off with a circle, right? Or something that's circle-like, anyways. So I'm going to start with that circle. Like so. Okay. And then from our circle, we're going to go ahead and now if we're going to do this, we would divide this in half. We would divide this in half again. Vertically and horizontally. If I wanted to, I could see if it was actually in half by marking this to there and seeing if it actually is half. This probably should be there. That's closer, but we're going to split the difference. So this is the halfway point. All right. And so what we would do is we try to go ahead and divide this into thirds. If I mark the halfway point and then come on either side of it a little bit, sometimes it's easier to get the thirds, and I could go ahead and, yeah, that's pretty close. Close enough. So we'll go ahead and say there's our thirds. And so for this is this right here, this third. Now this is the top part, so this is actually going to be sixths if I take this whole line, but this is thirds from the halfway point up. And so again, this would be the hairline. Okay, so this is the hairline. It's a terrible age. But this right here is where the hairline is, or the top of the forehead. We would then take this distance here and bring this up from the bottom. So this should be the same distance Okay, so we'll just say, all right. And if we've done this properly, this here should be the same distance as that there. And this is a little bit at an angle, so I'm gonna use this to check it. Because this is recording this, it's a little further from me, so I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of get an idea. And it's close. It's not perfect, but it's close. And I think I marked it here. We'll just add a little bit and that'll be just about right. Okay, so with this we have this right here. This is the brow line. Not the eye, but the top of the brow. This right here is the hairline. And this right here is the bottom of the ball of the nose. Okay, so the nose. Okay. Then what we do is we take this distance here and we bring it down. And I bring that down. This is now, this should be the chin line. Okay. So we're developed this from the circle as far as that goes. And again, we can go there to there to there. And these should be equal thirds, or pretty close to it. There's going to be some variation, but for the most part, these will be equal thirds. Now, what I'm going to do also right here is with the line, the nose line and the hairline, we're going to draw up a straight line here. And what we're doing is we're acting like we're going to cut off a slice of the circle, because the head is flatter on the side. So we're going to act like we're slicing that off, and we're going to take it off of there. So we cut that here, and we cut this here. Now if we cut this, this has dimensions, so it's not going to be just a straight flat line. It's going to have dimensions, so this would become an ellipse. And it's going to be fairly in perspective, so it's going to be a fairly tight ellipse. But that will give us a little, so it's a little flatter, the head's a little flatter on the side, but it does have some rounding, and that's what this ellipse gives us. That this ellipse is giving us a little bit of that flatter rounding of the head, and the head would round this way as well. And so, voila. So this will be, again, this will be the side of the head, this will be the front of the head. So I'm going to make sure, because we're doing a front view, that this is symmetrical right to left. Okay, so this distance to here should be the same as that distance to there. Okay, and again, it's pretty close. Good deal. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take this distance and we're going to divide this into thirds. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this out of the way. And I'm going to go ahead and take that in half. And again, we can go ahead and check, see how close I am by that there, and I'm not, I'm off a bit. So we'll mark that. This is the distance I'm off, so if I split that in the middle, that should be the middle. All right, so just a quick way of getting pretty close to the middle. And then we can go ahead and, whoops, that's probably too far away. Take either side of this, like so, and try to divide it into thirds. So I'm going to see, hey, that would go there, but is that still 1/3? It's a little bit long, so we're going to take this, drop this down here. So we're going to take that, measure that there, that moves to there, and then we're going to go ahead and that would move to there, and that, okay, so that's going to be about just about equal thirds. So we'll go ahead and go, all right, that right there is equal thirds. Now we've already got, no we don't. If this is equal thirds, we should be able to take, so if that's, you know, what we need, we should be able to come up here. Of course, this one is not, we actually do, we're going to do this one down here. So we're going to say, all right, well, what are the thirds? And we go ahead and mark this off. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. So again, pretty close to equal thirds. So this we're cutting into third. That's a third. That's a third. This is in thirds. That's a third. That's a third. That's a third. But this one up here we're going to cut into fourths. So we're going to try to cut this one up here into fourths. And again, I'm just going to double check this with my little scratch piece of paper. Yeah, that's pretty close. It's not perfect, but it's pretty close. So again, we got this over here. Usually I'm not going to sit here and get this crazy with it, but since we're doing this for you guys, we're going to try to make it make it pretty close. That's going to be a quarter and a quarter and a quarter. And of course, for those of you who are really good with fractions, you should say, well, that's 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4, you know, that whole thing. But we've got this divided into quarters, this divided into thirds, and this divided into thirds. That's very important for the landmarks we're going to put on here. Okay. We are also going to divide this area into quarters as well. Okay. And that means this goes here. Goes there. Okay. So this over here, we've also divided into quarters. So this is, you know, fourths or quarters. And yes, this should be 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters. Yes, I understand that. If I wanted to get in here where I was really working big, and because it's hard to work bigger than it is to work smaller. If I wanted to, there's a quick way of doing this where you can mark this off here, mark that off there, and then you just fold the paper in half. Put those two together. It's 2 little points. So you can go ahead and bend that, put those 2 little points together like so. And then just fold it. And where I folded it, that's now the middle. So that right there would be the middle. And if I want to, I could mark the middle, and I could fold these 2 in half. And I wish I could say I was the one that came up with this, but I'm not. This A lot smarter people came up with this idea, much smarter than I am, but it works. And so I'm like, well, if it works, I'm using it. That's all there is to it. Why wouldn't I, you know, use what works? But, you know, quickly divided that in without, you know, quite the jumping about like we did here. And yes, I could have done armature of a rectangle, but there's going to be enough lines on here as it is, so I didn't want to muddy the water, so to speak. But yes, we could have used the armature a little quicker, and I would have gotten to those points a little easier. But these are also, we've got 4, so this is divided into 8 all the way across. From here to the forehead, we've got 4. From the brow to the forehead, we divide those into 4. From the brow to the nose, 3. From the nose down to the chin, also 3. Okay, these increments are very important for the next part. We're going to go ahead and lighten these, because again, we're still going to have all these different lines going through here, and so again, we don't need more confusion. You might say too late, but we're going to give it a shot anyways. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Now, the cool part about this that I really like is, first off, this first third down here. This first third should be our eye line. So this is the brow, not the eye. The actual first third is actually where the eye is. We can go ahead and, there's a system of dividing half, half, and a half for the head. And, you know, we could do that here. And that's what we're doing. We're going to put some more measurements on here so that we can get some more information. Now, instead of doing this like the way that, you know, Reilly would, some people say, well, Reilly would do this and Reilly would do that and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so this is, these are the eyes in half, right? Well, that's if it goes halfway through the eye. So we're going to find out that this is about halfway. And this would be if we put the eye sort of on the middle of this, but this is actually the bottom of the eye. So again, so this right here is our halfway mark, right here. So again, we don't normally do this. We normally will mark this and understand that's going to be towards the bottom of the eye. So anyways, we're going to mark the eye line, which is the first third from the brow line. That's the eye. Now from here we're going to do we're going to take the first third from the chin up and the first third from the nose up, and we're going to do a little ellipse. Okay. And what we're doing is we're defining the muzzle of the face. Or some people would call it the tooth cylinder. Okay, it's where the teeth are and all that good stuff. So we're going to put that in there. So this is really important. This this little line where we're going through the first third from the bottom of the chin and the first third from the bottom of the nose, and we're creating this ellipse. Okay. The next one we're going to do is we're going to come up to this this 1/3 line and come up to the top of the forehead, and this is the frontal part of this forehead, okay, or the frontalis for those that want to get into that, the anatomy and stuff. Now there's a circle we're going to do. Well, it's actually not a circle, it's an ellipse. It's elliptical, and this one is going to get a little bit wider. And this is going to come through the chin, and this goes through the second third, just like this arc right here with the frontalis is going to go through there. Now, again, certain people will use parts of Reilly that, and others will let other pieces fall by the wayside. So it's become really, really sort of personalized by different instructors because, again, Reilly never really wrote anything down, as I understand it. Everything they've got about Reilly all came from student notes. And so, and some of the notes seem to be very different from others. So, might have been the mood Reilly was in that night as well. So we went ahead and we've got this one. Now, truth be told, this one right here usually is above this one just slightly. So I said this one does lie on the second third of the nose. This one's usually just slightly above it. So I'm going to use the eye line since I already connected that. And we'll find out there'll be a slight, there's a slight space between there, which is what we normally have. If we look at Reilly, this is this circle here that goes for the second third. And this is, again, the frontalis, or the front of the forehead. Okay. And again, I'm not going to worry about these guys. These little tracks are fine for thinking of, these are supposed to be different planes of the head as if it was made out of sculpture. But I find they usually get in, I don't normally put them in there. But, to know about them is a good thing. Basically what happens is that the first line is this line right here arcing around the head. And this comes through the outside of the eye. And people will use it to help try to mark where the eye is. And this one over here comes down and it arcs through where the tear duct is, and so forth and so on. But before we go any further, I'm going to draw the brow. Now, some people will call this the look for the eyeglasses rhythm, because you have a slight, usually there's an arch to the brow. Now the brow is, the middle of the brow is here, but the eyebrow is a little bit higher. The actual ocular cavity goes a little bit higher than that. It's where the eyebrow is. Not by a ton, but by a little bit. So we want to make sure that we've got some of that. And so again, this looks sort of like the eyeglasses, or sort of shape that, again, some people call it, which, again, you start to get that, start thinking about it like, yeah, that kind of does look like glasses. And that's because glasses follow the natural shape of the head. So we got the eyeglass shape on here. And again, this is the brow line. Okay, right there. And we actually divided these into 4 and these into 4. And what happens, the way this works, and the reason we did it is that we go in 1 quarter space, and that's the outside of the eye. We then come in 1, 2, and that's the tear duct. We come over here, come 1 quarter in, that's the tear duct. And we go 1, 2 over, and then that's the outside of the eye. So what we're left with is 1 quarter on each side, and then 3 equal spaces. And when we're drawing the head, you want again that third eye, the 3 equal eye spaces, and that's how we did it. We came from, this is the side of the ocular cavity. This is the side of the ocular cavity. From here to the center line, we divided that into 4. Divided this into 4. We have 8 of them. We come in 1 quarter on each side. Then we come over 2, throw a mark. Then there's a half, and then a half on each side, which again is 2 there, 2 there. So 6 with 1 quarter on each side. So it's a really great proportional way of very quickly establishing the eyes. Okay. The other thing we're going to do on here is we're going to put the nose, because we also have the width of the nose. This is one eye space. This right here. Okay, so we can bring this eye space down to the nose line, and we can go ahead and make the basic nose. And again, we're going to make it, the really simple way to do is when you do an arch. Now, some people will make this a little bit more where it comes around the ball of the nose, and then it comes, down and then around through they'll make a little bit more of a stylized nose. Whether you do that or not is up to you, and whether you do it or not is fine. Again, this is the whole thing of Reilly really starts to get people where they start to use their own personality for this. But then we're going to bring this comes up the bridge, and then this turns and it goes onto the brow. Okay, so again, we're going to go ahead and use this. like so. Okay. Now the other thing we're going to do is there's another circle. Now this comes out and it defines the wings of the nose and the back wings of the nose. That's what this does. It's really, really nice. We didn't do this, but this actually comes down into what's called the septum. That's that division of that piece of skin between the nostrils. Okay, and then our nostrils are in here sometime. This is actually the underside of the entire nose, is what this is supposed to be. And so in here's the nostrils. Now it doesn't turn. The nose doesn't turn at the nostrils. The nose turns at the wing. The wing comes over here. It turns under, and then there's a nostril. So if we want to, we could, just to make the point, we'll go ahead and put a little. Nostril is usually going to be sort of like a little comma shape, and you could go ahead and put a little, comma shape for the nostril, and then this would come out, and that's, the wing of the nose. But the idea is we're not getting with that yet. That's jumping the gun, so but we could certainly do that. That's what we're gonna do at some point. We're then gonna go ahead and put the mouth. Now again, from here, this came below the nose line because of the ball of the nose is gonna be usually, somewhere between this line, and the septum of the nose usually goes just a little bit below this line, not by much, but it's a little bit below there. Okay, now we're gonna take this. Again, we're divide this in half. So if we wanted to, and the reason I do that is even though Reilly used the thirds, it becomes just another landmark. So if I divide this in half, it tells me that's how far off I was divided in the middle. So this is the halfway point right there between the bottom of the nose and the bottom of the chin. That's the halfway point. And if I feel I got off, I can check this again. That goes there. That's still not there. That went there. Divide the two. Okay, so that's the half. Okay. So, again, I took the overlaps and then I just divided between the two, and that should be the half. So this is the halfway point. Now, if this was the halfway point, these are supposed to be the thirds. Okay. And if I went ahead and said, let's see, that's 1/3, 2/3, and that was 3/3, but that was the originally before we put the nose here. So this has gotten smaller. So we're going to take this division and we're going to take this and then come up here, which is there, and that's okay. So this does need to come down a little bit. But these are just about the 1/3 points from that nose, and again the half should be there. That's okay. That's all right. Oh, something I didn't put in here yet. So again, we usually put this whenever we're doing portraits. At least when I'm doing it, I'll put a little ellipse down here to do the chin. Now this ellipse goes above the 1/3 point, so these two intersect. And what this does, this marks the top of the chin versus the side. And then again, anyways, we've got just above there is going to be the bottom lip from the mouth, right? Usually around the third is going to be the middle of the mouth, and then we can use the septum to find the top of the mouth. And so we're going to end up with something. Now, I'm not going to sit here and worry about wonderful looking features. We really didn't. I'm not here to do that. This is just to show the basics of Reilly. So we're just going to put something that approximates a mouth. Now this coming up here is usually a little on the tall side, so I'm going to cut this back just slightly. Okay, this is now going to be the middle of the mouth. This is going to be the underside for the mouth. Okay, like so. Okay, and then we're going to have a space. There's a space between the mouth, right? And there's the top of the chin. So we're gonna have, we've got this and we've got the chin, all this good stuff. Now there's something we haven't put on yet that's really important as well with Reilly, and I wanted the mouth before I did this, and I'm going to try to also make sure I didn't put down a center line too well. I did, but it's very, very, very light, and so this is certainly the time if I'm doing, the head is all about symmetry. And so we want to make sure that we have a center line so we can check our head and make sure it's symmetrical. And that's why, you know, from here to here we want to make sure that this is symmetrical, and it's not. So if that's the case, I need to go ahead and mark it off so that it is symmetrical. So this would come out here a little bit more, you know. And what this is again supposed to be is this is again the muzzle, and so your smile lines actually are along this line. This is the outside. As you get older, you'll get your smile line. Well, there'll be a fold from the smile line over, and that's what that's for. But again, this is the one that becomes really important. We haven't put on the ear, and the ear is going to be somewhere between here, and the ear is going to be in the middle of that, you know, this ellipse here that we put on. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do this where we come around the mouth. There's the little bean, which is the corners of the mouth, which are right about here. My circle needs to come out a little bit more, truth be told. But the circle's the little bean, and then you come up towards the nose, and then this shoots out and hits this brow line, the bottom of that brow line, not the bottom, but where it stops, which is the eye line, where those two come together. And you're going to bring this up and through for the ear. Now for Reilly, the ear looks silly, but this again is just for the rhythm line. Okay, and I broke through that a little bit. That's not that. That's more important that this flows into the ear. So here it wasn't going to hit the ear. It was going to actually hit the sort of the, you know, the top of the ear. That wasn't enough, so this had to lift. That's all right, no big deal. So again, and what this is again, this is some of the cheek that happens on this line. You know, the top of the cheek is what this represents, and then where this comes around, and if we go through here, that's the bottom of the ocular cavity. So there's some really cool stuff that, again, these landmarks. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. You come over here, and we're going to come through this point. I'm just going to go ahead and mark that over there, through that point. And again, we've got the ear. The ear's going to be between there. I'm going to put a little C curve. And again, this would come up into the ear, come around. So again, we've got this through this ear and around. And you're going to get, again, this little rhythm that's happening. I don't think my lip is quite symmetrical. Well, actually, it's better than I thought. So that's there. Take this off the center line. Take this over onto the center line. Okay, so something like that. All right, so again, so this is the basic lip right here. And, you know, again, this is just a real basic lip. If we got into the lip, we'd be like, well, it comes up, and then there's the little V between the philtrum, and, you know, the other little part of the philtrum, and this, you know, we could then go, you know, but for right now, you know, we're not going to worry a ton about that. There's another rhythm that, so we also use the rhythm of this circle, because again, this helps with the cheek. We're going to bring this in through here, this original circle from our head. And then we're gonna find the second part of this. Okay. So that comes out there. This comes out through there. Usually I don't push this out this much, but I was looking over at the Reilly over here to my left, and that made me decide. But you know what? I've never liked. I think that I've always thought that pushed out too far, so I'm putting it back where I had it. And Reilly can just spin in his grave. Sorry. But anyways, from here there's another one that comes down and comes around and connects down onto here. Okay. And so what we're going to do is now we've got the ear here, we've got the head going here, this is now the ear, comes around, this thing comes down. Now, we've got the cheeks are the widest part of the head. So we're actually going to bring this down through and come down, and I'm just bringing this like a rhythm off of this through the brow, through here, and I'm just imagining again getting wider into that cheek, and then we're going to come down into the shield, or in other words, the two angles for the head, or the two angles for the jaw on the head. Bring this line across for symmetry. Let's go ahead and get this side done. So we're going to go ahead and come from the ear. And again, with the Reilly method, now I'm trying to modify this because otherwise it starts to look just too much with that ear. Just it looks just, again, too much, too crazy. So again, I was trying to modify the ear, and we would. These are just for the rhythms. If we're like, well, that's not what the person's ear looks like, well, then you'd come over here and you'd actually draw that person's ear. But this is just, again, for the rhythms we're looking for. Are we thinking of the cheek? Are we thinking of the mandible, or the tooth cylinder? Are we thinking of how the cheek comes out here and comes up and around and down and then curves over through the cheek? This again. Are we thinking of where the ocular cavity is? There's another one that we didn't put on here yet. That again is the sides of the nose, where we come down through the bottom and come up, and this is the sides of the nose. And then some people will go ahead and turn this into like a little long little pill looking shape. Again, that's sort of the shape of the cartilage. Again, once when you do this, you can start to modify this into all the, because you have the basic placements of all the different features. This is the side of the nose. There's a part at which you can take a rhythm line from where the nose and this circle come together, and you go out, and you basically merge it at that second point right through there. And this is this little bit of bone that goes back in, part of the ocular cavity. From there you put in the entire eyeball. Now, this is always seems a little strange, but remember, this is with no lid on. Okay, so this is, again, that the eyeball, with no lid on it. So now some people, again, will use this as like a proportioning system. So they'll be like, where this actually attaches to the eyeballs, which means for that to do that, this would have to be higher up, and there's some different things like that. It'd have to be up just a little bit. Again, I'm using sort of a combination of systems. I'm using Reilly. I'm using, of course, we're starting with Loomis, which is a simplification of Reilly, but I'm also using the classic proportions of half, half, and a half. I'm using the proportions of thirds and the knowledge from drawing the skull. And I'm combining all of them into getting this to look. I'd use the word proper, to make it look good. Again, the first time we see Reilly, and a lot of times we're like, what do I do with this nonsense? It can really help with symmetry as well. So if I took this here, and again, I'm checking for symmetry by measuring, where's that? I could bring and slam this down, to the bottom of the chin, bring this over, so that then I can measure here and check that first angle coming down off of here, and I could say, all right, well, that right there should be about where the first angle is, and then where it changes direction, bring that across that line, and this should be a sort of a rounded line coming off of there. Again, we can use this again for symmetry and mirroring ideas and stuff like that. And then after we've done that, we can actually round the jaw out. Again, I will usually keep the two angles fairly fairly straight, so that we can get the angles mirrored, and then we're gonna cut it off and round it as we come into this face. All right, and then again we're going to go, okay, and now again the eyebrows of course would be on here. We have that. We haven't put this on yet, but there is the temple and muscle that also helps sort of. It helps us with the temple bone, and so we're going to bring this temple bone and we're going to bring it almost out to where the ear starts. So we're going to bring that from here, come down, come over here, come down, and again this is the brow, going across the brow. This actually has a little, and so this uses the thirds for the skull. This uses the rhythms for the musculature, and again everything culminates into a better understanding of the head. Now I've seen some people that will then come in here and they'll put in here that we have again there's sort of the front part of this, and then you have another part of the head that still is very, very round. That's going to round through here, you know, and then anything over here is actually the side of the forehead. And so again, this is just, let's go ahead and indicate, again, this is the original circle from the Loomis head. This is the original circle from that Loomis head. And again, think of these as rhythms. I have never seen anyone, except in a very general way, lay this out with true Loomis, where they're actually putting all the lines in. They may put like 3 or 4 of the major lines in, but I've never seen anyone put all of them in ever, unless they're actually learning. Again, if you're learning, go through the motions, do 10 of these heads like this. If you do 20, that's even better. But just learn it, and then when you're looking at the head, you'll be like, oh, look at that rhythm. Oh, wow. And oh, wow, this is where, you know, we haven't got the second ball, or pardon me, where it comes up onto the ball of the nose. So we could put that in, you know, and you can start actually dealing with features. If we're dealing with the eyes, for instance, we're going to have an arc, and this arc is going to come across the eyes over to here. So again, you can use this arc as that, you know, as the arc, you know, the upper lid, right? And then you're going to have another arc. The tear duct's going to be in here. So then you're going to have a line that lifts up onto there, starts here, starts just in, you know, and goes up onto there. And by doing this, you're going to get your three angles. You know, you're going to have down, over, down, and then, you know, so, you know, again, up, over, down. You know, we've got all the stuff. You'd have your tear duct right in here, tear duct right in here. You then have the downside of it is coming down around that, and then it's going to come up into there. You know, we can start to draw our eye. As far as that goes. You know, again, we've got the makings for this face, and again, this would be very, very light whenever you do these lines. So you could, of course, erase these. You know, then you'd have the lid over here, you know, and so forth and so on. You know, how thick is the lid? Obviously, there's part of the ball that's covered with fat and other tissue, so you know there's going to be that going on. This, of course, would be the colored part of the eye, as far as that goes. And so again, these are those rhythms. So I'm just going to go ahead and clean this up a little bit. So we can see these, you know, it's got all this stuff going on here. On one side we're actually put a nostril, on this side we'll just leave, you know, this is the whole inner side, that's not all nostrils, so remember that. But we can, again, we've got these different small planes of the head that we've now identified. You know, some people will go up into here from here. That gives you the, again, that bony protrusion. There's, you know, a lot of bone coming in through here that goes down into there. Right. So forth and so on. So again, Reilly, and again, it's really something. When you first see it, and I'm really one of these people, one of those types of people, where if I don't get it, if I think it's complete crap, I'll throw it out there, even if I, and of course that comes back to haunt you, because I can tell you I've had to, on many occasions, see where the error of my ways. I used to hear about Reilly a lot, and the first time I saw it, I just, you know, I blew it off. Like, what are you gonna do with that? That's terrible. It looks ugly. And then I had someone finally explain to me, like, look, this is not about a pretty head. It's not even the point of Reilly. The point of Reilly is to look for the rhythms on the head, the muscles that are there. Be aware of them, and if you're more aware of them, you'll draw a better head. And I was like, well, that actually does make sense. And it gives you like all these little proportions, this divided in thirds, this divided into thirds of the brow, this divided into fourths, that lets you know where to look for the landmarks. That's what's really cool about Reilly. Again, you're looking for these landmarks, because these landmarks are going to have, you know, these are planes of the head. This is going to be going in and down the jaw through here. You know, this is all through here is actually the side of the head. You know, so forth and so on. This around here is where you get the smile line. The smile line is going to pick up a little bit of a reverse curve, not this much. But again, it's just to get you to start looking. That's the strength of the Reilly technique. Do you know what you're actually drawing? I don't know, I just eyeball it. Well, it's one of these things where you tuck it away along with, okay, my understanding of structure of the skull, the understanding of a little bit of the musculature of the head. What are the bones doing? What are the muscles doing? What are the rhythms doing? What are the proportions doing? It's all in Reilly. It's all there. It's not meant to be, oh, look how, this is a generic head. This is still a generic, you know, sort of, it's not an individualized head. This is just basic ideas that are happening in every head. And it's just that those ideas will happen a little differently. You know, so in other words, not is this always going to be 1/4 of the way? No, but it's going to be in the area. And it might vary by, like, in real time, someone's real face, it might vary like a 1/16 of an inch, maybe an 1/8 at full scale. That's not that much if you go smaller than that. It's going to be that close to that landmark. So that's what Reilly's about. It's about getting used to dealing with these rhythms and then putting those rhythms on the head and looking for them so that you're better prepared. You know, it's kind of like, you know, someone going, well, I know what stars are, but you're like, well, do you know where to look for the Big Dipper? Well, no. Well, how are you going to ever find it? Where if you're like, look, you look for this landmark, you know, look for this part of the sky and this particular star cluster and that particular star cluster, and, you know, you'll find your way to the Dipper. Well, that tells you where to look. That tells you how you're going to find it. That's the information you need. And it's the same thing with Reilly. It's giving us the information that we need to find, you know, to find our landmarks. So that's the power of Reilly system. So again, we've got all these different little landmarks that we're looking for. I'm going to leave this ear just like this one. This is going to be the simpler side. So we're going to leave this in the true Reilly system and technique. Go ahead and do this. Go ahead and do this. And again, we've got this over here that overlaps there. As far as that goes. Of course, we've got, up here's the hairline. So the Reilly system. A very, very powerful way of dealing with the head and in all the stuff that happens on the head. If you ever wondered about people like, oh wow, how can they, they've got that little piece here and they've got this tucking, and oh, look at the way the mouth looks, and look at all the, he's got that little subtle little bump there, and how do they do it? It's they know Reilly. Reilly that was what it's all about. Illustrators use Reilly a lot. That's where you usually hear about Reilly, is from people that do illustration. And they had to really do something really, really good as quickly as possible, and that's the whole point of the Reilly system, is it gives you very quick, again, gets you very familiar with landmarks so that you can draw much more quickly, and then away you go. So again, this is the Reilly method. This one right here that I put in is not necessary. I'll just lighten this up. This was my sort of my own little addition, if you will, for this system. So that's not necessary. It's just one of those things that I kind of look for. That's not a part of the original Reilly. But again, I think I told you how people will personalize this. That's my own personalization of the Reilly method. When I'm drawing, I look for that. So yeah, go ahead and learn the Reilly system. It's going to really help your drawing in so many ways. And again, then we of course would have a neck coming down off of here. And of course, someone's neck might be thinner, someone's neck might be thicker, depending on their age, depending on, how old they are, and I just said age, didn't I? But depending on, where they're from, and ethnicity, and stage in life, and all kinds of things will affect, that sort of idea. But this is the basic Reilly method. Again, the big thing we want to remember is we divide this into thirds. This is into thirds, this into quarters. We had the first third, we connect with this. So that goes from the first third from the nose, first third up from the chin, we get this one. We then did this, which is the second third, and then all the way down to the bottom of the chin. All right? We did that one. We have this one that actually is just a little bit above, is kind of through that eye area. But, this one was, again, just above that first third, and then comes up all the way to the top there. We then put the brow line that we came up here and touches, goes above the brow just a little bit, and then it dips down, and then it comes just over the brow again, just above. So the brow line's right here. This doesn't come up above it too far, but it does a little bit. Okay, we did that. This was the first third, is the bottom of the eye, which right here was is again that sort of that first third somewhere, right through there. Actually, it's right there, truth be told. But anyways, in this we had divided this into 4, divide this side into 4, came in 1/4, then 2/4, so that left us 1/4 on each side, which gave us 2 spaces for the eye. We did the same thing here. There's a 4th here and a 4th here. We put 2 here, but that left us 1 on each side, which gives us 2, 2, and 2, 3 eye spaces. We then marked, and once we had the eye spaces, we could bring down here through the nose. We did this little, which is kind of like almost like a double triangle sort of thing with a little dip in the middle, and brought the bridge up, onto the brow. Comes in a little bit as we do that, right? We brought this little circle, which comes from, it starts at about that first third and it goes up to the second third, and it's just a little, which is, again, these are the sides of the nose. That's what that is supposed to be. We then said, okay, we got the ocular cavity here. We then said, we marked the mouth, and remember the mouth was, this is the halfway point, which is about the bottom of the lip, through here, okay? And then we said, well, the first third, which was just a little bit above this, is usually where the mouth is, but because the nose came down a little bit from this dropped this just slightly, which made the middle of the mouth drop just, very slightly, as far as that goes. Right here, again, they don't have this in a lot of in the Loomis, but again, between here is going to be the philtrum. That's a landmark. So I'm going to add that. That's a very important landmark to the mouth, is the philtrum. That little tie-shaped space that comes down from the nose. Because that tells us where the upper lip is, and then we've got the bottom lip. Now I am doing this a little in perspective. This bottom lip looks a little funky, but anyway, so we've got this bottom lip here. This seems like this is coming down too far. There's like a little bit of a reverse curve in there, but most people it's very soft. Some people it's non-existent. Other people it's very clear. Just again, it's one of those things. It depends on how much fat people have in their lip and the way the fat wraps the muscle and the way the skin wraps that. It's all a little different. There's a little shelf below here. Again, this is a circle that comes up above the first third a little bit. And usually this is just to mark the chin. Usually the chin is a little bit, is not quite that high. We said, all right, well then I marked the mouth and we put in the arc here and the arc here and the arc here. And that's so we could come to the halfway down from the eye. That's where where the little nodes are. The little sides of the mouth. This got just a little bit too far out. But we went ahead and took this from the side of the mouth in, and then it came up here into the ear. We had marked the top of the brow, the bottom of the nose. That's where the ear was. I put a little C curve on there. And that just helps me to kind of, find that, get that curve going. This is supposed to be the top of the ear, that little ear band. And so this comes down through here, arcs down, and picks up through this little circle, this arc, down through here. Now, Loomis and some others, if I brought the tear duct down through here and then brought this up, this would be actually the side of the face. It comes the side of just a little bit of the side of the chin, then it comes up around the ocular cavity, comes up it comes up through here, which is again you have the front of the cheek. So it comes here around, goes around the front of the cheek, and this is all the side of the head. The side of the head actually comes down into here. So this comes around, it wraps, and then it kind of comes in here like so. Again, this is a modification, but again, it's actually what is happening on the face as we get used to it. But this is again a great jumping off point for getting all these little planes and microplanes and all this sort of stuff put together on the head for the Reilly head. Now this is this is in front view. We'll do the Reilly view head again, probably with a little not quite so much in-depth instruction, but we'll do it from the 3/4 and the profile and how this then works in those other views. But again, this is the Reilly system. So enjoy it. Try to replicate it. Do a couple of heads. Look for your fourths, your thirds, and your thirds. Place your, divide this to the center line in 4, this to the center line in 4. Come in 1/4, then go 2/4, and then leave the last quarter between that and the center line. Come in a quarter, take 2/4, leave the last quarter in the center line, and you'll have 2/4, 2/4, and 2/4. And you'll have, again, the equal eye spaces. And if we did this right, we'll have another eye space just to there. So again, we've done, and part of this is the ears are just way too prominent. These ears would come in considerably, and that would give us 5 eye spaces. We'd find out, oh yeah, 5 eye spaces. So again, this is just another idea of helping us understand and helping us draw the head. It's not the end-all be-all. It's just to get us used to rhythms. But it's one more tool in our toolkit that'll help us draw people much better. The little circle of the eye kind of is obscuring everything, so I'm kind of clearing it out of there a little bit. So again, that's the Reilly technique. Enjoy it, use it, and you'll have some really great success. Take care now. Be more creative. Bye-bye.